Entering dependencies into MS Project. So, as I said in previous training sessions, you typically identify dependencies and record them based on your product breakdown structure, and also as an output from your planning workshops. But what are dependencies? Well, as you shape your project, it becomes obvious that deliverables or the sub-deliverables of your PBS often become increasingly interdependent. That is, they require other tasks to be completed before they, in their turn, can be completed. For example, in a house project, we have to complete both the foundations and the walls of the house before we can put a roof on it. Now, there are 4 types of dependencies within MS Project. We have finish to start, start to start, finish to finish, and start to finish. Let's go through these one at a time. In a finish to start dependency, the second or successor task in the relationship cannot begin until the first task or predecessor finishes. In a start to start dependency, it doesn't require that both tasks start at the same time. It simply requires that the first task has begun in order for the second task to begin. In the finish to finish dependency, it doesn't require that both tasks be completed simultaneously. It simply requires that the first task be finished in order for the second task to finish. And then finally, the start to finish dependency. This is a little more tricky. When you use this type of dependency, you are saying that the second task in the relationship cannot finish until the first task starts. Now, when I look at the main unit tasks, based on the workshops, I have decided the only dependency is that task 7 cannot be started until tasks 3 to 6 have been completed first. So what I'm going to do is, if you can't see the predecessor column, just grab this and move it to reveal the additional columns. I'm going to select task 7. I'm going to move over to the predecessor column, and I'm going to enter my predecessors for task 7 in this way. If I enter 3, 4, 5, 6, like so. So what I'm saying here is that this task will have a dependency on task 3, 4, 5 and 6. If I press return, and because of the default dependency type of finish to start, by entering the task IDs of its predecessors within the predecessor column of task 7, it has created a finish to start relationship over here. And where you can see the shading in blue, this indicates changes based on your last action or input and what those changes are. Now, in my monitor build, based on the workshops again, I've decided that all tasks have a waterfall finish to start dependency. This means that task 9 must be completed before task 10 can be started, and task 11 must be completed before task 12, and so on. So to do this, I'm going to highlight from Build Monitor Housing all the way down to Assemble Monitor. And then on the task ribbon, I'm going to click the Link Tasks icon. And as you can see, the dependencies for all the selected tasks have been created. I'm going to repeat this for the mouse and the keyboard tasks. And you can see how that's impacted the Gantt view on the right hand side here. Based on those dependencies, it now looks like a waterfall. Now, during the planning workshops, after the main unit, monitor, mouse and keyboard tasks have been completed, the quality inspection team have stated they will require a 2-day duration after each for quality checks before we can assemble the computer, i.e. the task number 23. So, to allow for this, I will create a 2-day lag in the dependency relationship. Now, I do this in the following way. Within task 23, assemble computer, I'm going to select the predecessor column and I'm going to enter the information as follows. Task 2, finish to start relationship, and I'm going to add a plus sign and I'm going to add 2D. So what I'm saying here, there is a finish to start relationship on task 2 plus 2 days. And I'm going to do this for task 8, task 13, task 18 as well. So I'm going to press comma and then do task 8 and so on. Let me just expand this out a little bit here so you can see what I've entered. And you can see how projects translated this information. And over here on the Gantt chart, you can see now that the assembled computer has been moved out to 2 days after each of those summary tasks and so on. Now, there are schools of thought about creating relationships on summary tasks, and there are also schools of thought around using lags. I think if you do them in a controlled way and use them in a sparing way, they can add value and you can use them, and there are certain things that you can do to ensure that you are not overutilizing these things. However, in any organisation, you should have planning standards that they will hold you to, and they may or may not like you doing this. I strongly advise that it's always a good practice to consider this in your organisation and to look at those planning standards to understand what you can and cannot do in that organisation. But for the purposes of this exercise, I wanted to show you how you could enter a lag within your dependencies. Now, during our planning workshops, we've decided to ensure that connectivity can be established between the main unit and the monitor, mouse, etc. We need to be 80% through the main unit's overall duration, because at that point we're confident that the design will be set in stone and the connectivity can be established. Based on this assessment, the monitor, mouse and keyboard tasks should therefore plan to start once 80% of the duration of the main unit task has been completed. This is how I would translate this thinking into MS Project so it plans accordingly. So if you take the monitor here, and in here I'm going to enter the main unit parent task ID, which is 2. So I'm going to make sure that 80% of this duration is complete before I start the monitor, mouse and keyboard tasks. So within the monitor parent task predecessor column, so I'm going to enter 2, finish start, minus 20%. So what I'm saying here is at the end of the main unit task, go back 20% of that duration before I start this set of activities. So I'm going to press enter here. So as you can see, the monitor activities are planning to start 80% into the main unit duration. Let's take a moment to discuss this concept I'm using with the percentages on dependencies. So I've got two examples here because there are two ways of doing this and achieving the same result. On the top line, we can see that we've got a finish start relationship minus 20%. And what that is saying is that go back 20% of the total duration, and that's when we're going to start the next activity. So if I achieve 80% of the duration, and let me just demonstrate, you can see how that aligns. So we're now 80% through the duration and project is planning to start the next activity. So that's a finish start relationship minus 20%. So let's look at the start dependency on the second example, which will be easier for some to follow. So this is a start relationship, and what I've done here is start plus 80%. So again, if I complete 80% of the duration like so, you can see how the tasks have aligned. I hope that helps you understand this concept of what I'm doing here using those percentages. Let's get back to the demonstration. And I'm going to repeat this for the mouse and the keyboard tasks also. The way that I can do this is I'm going to take this and I'm going to control copy, and then I'm going to go on the mouse and I'm going to control paste, and the same for the keyboard. I'm going to control paste, and as you can see, all those tasks have now been moved accordingly. Now, any project plan should consist of a set of grouped activities ending in a milestone, which represents the completion of those activities. For example, when our main unit has been completed. Typically, whenever you perform any type of status reporting, you use milestones to report progress. For example, when a phase of work has been completed, or if a deliverable from the product breakdown structure has been delivered, or your project go live dates, for example. So let's enter some milestones into our plan. So I want to enter a milestone for the completion of the main unit. So I'm going to select the task below Assemble Main Unit where I want to insert the task. So I'm going to select Monitor, and then I'm going to right click on Monitor and select Insert Task. Or you simply could just hit the Insert key on your keyboard. Now I'm going to select the new task we've just created, and I'm going to enter when main unit assembly is complete. I'm going to press the tab key. I'm going to press the tab key until I'm in the duration box, and in the duration box column I'm going to enter 0D for 0 days. Now MS Project will automatically recognise 0 duration as a milestone, and I'm then going to press the tab key. I'm going to tab over to the predecessor column or field, and I'm going to create a finish start dependency on the last task within the main unit tasks, which in this case is assemble main unit, which is ID number 7. And now you can see within the Gantt chart the graphical representation of that milestone for when the main unit assembly will be completed. I'm going to repeat this now for the monitor, mouse and keyboard. If you do the same, you should be able to see all the milestones as I've done here. Now, let's enter one more milestone which represents the completion of our project. So below Assemble Computer, I'm going to select that row and I'm going to enter a milestone when computer assembly is complete, and create the dependency on Assemble Computer task, which is the final task. Now when you look at your project, it should look like what you see before us. Oh, and don't forget to save your project file before you close it.